The glorious warmth of the sun touched the side of Astra's face, and her skin crawled at the revolting, pungent odor coming from the west. The air reeks of death! Jude's pale skin gleamed in the blinding sunlight, and he frowned. It smells like rotting corpses. Man, that stinks. A wave of nausea rolled through her, and the words froze on her lips. Do you think the stench will ever go away? It had been a gamble going above ground. They both knew it. Neither of them was prepared for the reality. Death was all around them. Billions had died around the world. There was no escaping the rancidness in the May late morning breeze. Jude had her father's favorite Remington 870 shotgun resting on his shoulder. Luckily, they both knew their way around guns, thanks to their fathers, who had hunted like many of the residents in the rural area. He shrugged. Maybe. His dark brown hair was much longer, in need of another trim. He was over 6 feet tall, square-shouldered, strong in a sports jock kind of way. He looked handsome in a white t-shirt and jeans, older, more mature in the natural light. They had been 17 when the plague had begun, confined like prisoners in the 30 by 60 foot underground bunker on our family's 10-acre property with no outside human contact. The loneliness would have driven her insane if Jude hadn't been with her. Are you sure your parents said the virus would probably burn itself out after it killed most of its hosts? Jude asked. Astra's chest squeezed, and she gulped down the hard lump in her throat. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes. Her parents were 2 of 4 leading epidemiologists with the National Microbiology Laboratory in Winnipeg, the country's only CL4 virology laboratory where the bioweapon had been released. The lab was one of only a few in the world equipped to work with risk group 4 pathogens, the highest biohazard classification. The CDC had categorized the XBU virus as a Category A bioterrorism agent and described the toxin as the deadliest pathogen to humans ever seen. Images flashed in the back of her mind. She could still hear her parents' voices in her head, as if they were standing in front of her. Astra, you know what to do. We've discussed it many times, her father said, gasping for breath. Don't leave the bunker for 5 years. Everything you need is there. If anyone finds the hidden entrance, don't let them in, no matter how much they beg, and keep Jude with you at all times. There was a long pause of silence before she heard her father's voice again. We spoke with Jude's parents. They're infected too. Astra's stomach sank. You need to understand what this means, her mother said, sobbing. We aren't going to make it. We are going to die. It's up to you and Jude now. I love you. At first, Astra struggled to decipher what her mother's words meant. Mom, I love you. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, I can't do this, Daddy. I'm scared. Honey, I know you are. You're young, smart, and resilient. You and Jude will get through this together. We know you will. You're in good hands. She heard her mother crying in the background, and then she went into a horrifying, long coughing fit. The reality of the situation took hold of Astra, and she couldn't think straight. This can't be happening. Her parents, Jude's, everyone was dying. She wiped the tears from her face with the back of her hand, and heard her father's choked voice. Go to the closure. It's safe there. Find Hope and bring her home. Promise you'll find her. Grief tore at Astra's insides, and she blew out a shaky breath. Daddy, I promise. Astra's entire world crumbled in an instant. She had cried for days until she couldn't cry anymore. Jude had cried too, after his phone call with his parents. He didn't think she'd noticed. He still had a defined sadness in his voice. They both did. Hey, are you okay? Jude's voice sliced through the crippling thoughts. She shook the god-awful memories away. I'm fine. That's what they told me. We should be careful if we come into contact with anyone just in case. We still have lots of masks, gloves, and disinfectant. It's about all we've got left. Concern bubbled up inside her, and her stomach rumbled. Astra was hungry and sick of being hungry. She missed her mother's cooking and the Sunday family dinners. She'd give anything for a real meal, not the MREs they'd been living on, or the millionth can of baked beans and canned tuna. They had rationed every morsel of food, spent every day staying busy by reading, playing board games, exercising, binge-watching DVDs, and watching TV until every station on the air turned to crackling static. Behind her, leaves rustled in the dense undergrowth. Astra turned her head and followed the noise. She tried to convince herself the sound was nothing, that she had imagined it. Jude spun and aimed the shotgun at the line of trees along the road. The rustling noise intensified. Branches swished and snapped. Something's out there.